backdrop, new everything.
New town, new state, new work, new attitude.
Girl, same.
You always had attitude. There's no doubt about that.
Well, it's a new one. It's a new one, Sabine. It's new.
He's got a new attitude.
Oh, come on, I'm not that gay.
Sabine didn't even hear when she was listening through all of that new backdrop, new this, new home, new whatever. I said, "Girl, same."
Oh. So where are you now?
I'm in North Carolina.
So you actually I was wondering if you moved, but I assume you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I picked up everything and moved immediately.
And congratulations.
Yeah, it was real sudden. I was just like, got to arrange this and arrange this. Got to buy a washer and dryer. I need to get furniture. I needed utilities and get a house. And it's just.
So you reinvented yourself, but you're happy. That's the main thing.
Happier, yes, absolutely.
And we'll never be happy. Anyway, happier. We take that, right, Eric?
Yes.
We'll take it.
Happier.
Yes, thank you.
Take it. And Eric also moving to Kentucky, so big.
Yes, we
Eric,
all moved.
when are you moving? You moved already? No.
He already moved.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to pet that thing.
This is the tactful mascot. His name is Max.
Max. I love Max. Hey, Max.
Yeah, he's
you
cute.
Have a Max of your own, Matt.
That thing's be huge. That's a Great Dane that Eric got there. So that thing's gonna be like a horse in a.
Yeah, he's not.
Kidding?
My God.
He's not grown. He's 2 months old.
Let me see that. I didn't see the head shape should be different, shouldn't it?
Come here. Well, you'll. Here's how you'll know.
Okay. He's 2 months old. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those hoofs.
But you have a big plot of land, so he's gonna be happy.
Yes.
Exactly.
He loves it here.
Yeah.
Good.
But I have to do the puppy thing. Sometimes I have to disappear off a call.
No.
I see a particular posture of him, and I have to run to make sure it doesn't do something.
Don't walk, run. We get the idea.
Yeah.
All right. So guys, listen. I just want to welcome a couple of people to the call. First off, Sabine, thank you very much for joining, and of course your support of the digital embellishment.
Can you adjust your camera a little bit? I always want to look up because you're chopped off, or do you don't want us to see you?
I'm gonna do you one better. How's that? I'm just gonna.
There we go. There's Kevin. Look, everybody, it's Kevin.
There you go. This is my fancy camera.
You gotta make sure the gator's in there, though. That's for sure.
Yeah. It always looks like you're like drowning against the bottom of the screen.
You know what it is?
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
You know what it is? I bought one of these things so that I can actually like stand up.
Right.
Oh.
And so
we're impressed.
Yeah, that's the thing that throws it off. So guys, thank you very much, Sabine, for obviously helping support what we're doing here. Is it my internet that's cutting, or?
It's not mine.
It's not mine.
It's 100% mine. So I will pass it off to Matt, whose internet is significantly better than mine this morning.
We want to hear all about what's going on, Matt.
Well, there's a lot going on lately, and I have been thrust into the world of packaging, and that's a whole different mindset. If you've been out and about and go from shop to shop, every shop has its own personality. They have their own preferences. They have their own, basically their own little microcosm as far as what is useful, what is proper, what the customers will like. They definitely know what their customers don't like. It's an amalgamation of all of their clients, and especially with packaging, it's a whole different thing. So for example, I'm in offices of Elite Print Finishing and home of the Box Boys, and they do boxes like right now.
Box Boys, really? We're gonna go there?
Never. Box Boys, yeah. You have not seen.
You haven't seen their internet stuff, Sabine?
Oh, follow them, Sabine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the whole the boys thing already. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. It's BOYZ too, which is kind of funny because Stephen Roberts is not young. But
Got it.
He's not old either, but it's their fun little game that they like to play because like Tactful And like you, Sabine, and everyone else probably here, we all like to have more fun in our workplace. So anyway, back to the topic at hand. It's just this little microcosm of like what this client wants and what that client needs and what they find acceptable. And I'm here to push those boundaries.
You're good at that.
I'm here to show new possibilities, new thought, just give them new thoughts, new ideas, new creative insight. So they have been coming in. I've been working directly with them, showing them samples, and we're just working on all kinds of things. And they're blown away. They're just like, wow, I didn't even know that was possible. Because the majority, okay, here's the thing you hate, Kevin. Here's the thing I hate. They just put varnish on white text.
Right.
So this job here, this nice cover for a real estate offering, they just put varnish on this main line here and varnish on this little logo right here.
Why?
Right.
And not much of it. They didn't want much. You need to put a pretty good level of microns on there in order to make it visible against a soft touch like that, especially. But then you're dealing with a cover, so you don't want it to be too deep. You don't want it to scrape or chip off. So it has to be a lower level of varnish. And then on top of that, they're putting it on white, and you can't even see it. It's not even visible. So
that's called subtle, Matt.
It was like,
sorry,
it is subtle. It can be subtle in certain applications.
Can it be too subtle?
Yeah,
Is it possible?
Just be like
that might be it.
In my opinion, at that point, you just don't do it at all. It's
right.
just to
too
me,
subtle is not good either. You got to have at least the element.
So what it needs to have is the appearance that it's adding some value to their offering.
Right.
And if it doesn't appear that way, then why did you spend the money and the time and the effort, go through all of the lamination efforts, delay the timeline, or having to pad the timeline in order to add that into the production cycle, et cetera, et cetera. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. To me, it's not justifiable.
So what the viewers at home want to know is, what did you tell them to do?
Okay, so I actually...
It's Friday, people. Hang in there.
You're so good, Sabine. Thank you.
I did a few things.
I just realized I should shut up.
I did a few things and presented them to the sales reps, the CSRs here, and they were like, and that's not to boast myself, but they're just like, wow, what is this? And the guy that I'm training on the machine out there is like, I don't even know how you do that. I have no idea how that's done. So I'm trying to teach. I'm trying to teach him as well. So I had a sample of this done. This is the plain sheet that I'm showing you, where I overlaid varnish on the photo, but I can't find any. They snatched them all up and ran off with them, and I can't find them anywhere.
Wow.
So I don't have one to show, unfortunately. I know
Tell
that's
us. We have a wild imagination. Tell us what you told
It's a terrible, terrible tease, I know.
I know.
And I'm being brutal doing that, but essentially, I mean, I could recreate it for you if you want me to. I can recreate the mask. And then
just tell us what you did. I mean, we've been around the foil or two.
So I used a Photoshop filter to create a varnish overlay for this photo that didn't, they're like, oh, put it on the windows like they're glass. I'm like, it's night. It's a night shot. And that just seemed like, when I teach curious versus obvious, that was the obvious thing.
Right.
And I said, no, let's put it on everything but the glass.
Right.
And very selectively. So I actually created two different masks and merged them together in Photoshop to my liking by masking out parts of one and allowing the parts of the other one to show through. It was a rather complex endeavor, but I was able to get it. And that way I had the right shadow, highlight, density between things, because you use old school filters. Okay, this is a funny side story. I was working with a graphic designer who's at a print shop in Greensboro, which is about 45 minutes from here. She came in, so we sat down. We were working on stuff because I'm trying to show her what can be done, because we're working on a special set of trading cards that haven't hit the market yet. So she kind of needs to know what's going on. And I don't know. I don't even know why I'm going through that story, but she basically said, "Can I tell you something? It looks, I like the way that you do things because I wasn't getting the results I wanted on the screen." So I'm like, "Okay, Elizabeth, show me how you do it." And she says, "I don't mean it to be offensive or anything, but the way you do things are really old school."
Ow!
So anyway, that led to me uh, coming back to this point of what I'm doing to create these special masks for these pieces is old school.
Yeah.
So we've got
What is
things
new
like
school then?
this.
Mhm.
Oh, very cool.
So that's just foil and silver varnish, or a silver foil and varnish, and it's covering some of the beads, and it's also here on her beads. I don't know that this lighting is
Yeah. No, I could
actually
tell.
showing it really well, but it's just the selective use of varnish, and it's just on the jewelry because
Mhm.
that's what we wanted to do, was to make it more silvery, make it more tactile. You can feel all the beads, you can run your fingers across it, and it's really sexy. It's just when you run your fingers across that, you're like, dang,
Mm.
how did you do that? But it's these old school filters that have been in Photoshop since the start.
So which ones are you using the most? Like which favorite one?
I'm using, well, if I were actually to go in and
Well, I also want to know what new school is. If this is old school, guys, we got to buckle up. And what is then? How would she have done it?
new school, okay, over time, as you well know, software evolves.
Really?
And every time they release something in Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, it has new features.
Right.
And the one that gains the most traction with new information is always Photoshop.
Right.
They're always adding more stuff to Photoshop and what it can do. And there's additional plugins and all kinds of things that you can do with it as well. So um, none of that stuff was available back in the day, in the late
Let's not go there. Let's not
yeah,
go.
it's before Y2K. Okay, um, so back then you only had certain fun things that you could do in Photoshop, and that was primarily the filter gallery. So under the filter gallery, you have the sketch section, and under sketch, you have a photocopy filter and a stamp filter. And those, when applied to a grayscale photograph, will outline the artwork. Um, and it depends on the contrast grade of the photo. It could be very low. It will give you different results. If you bump up the contrast, it will give you other results.
Really?
There's no preview. It's kind of an if then. Like you make your photo adjustments and then you run the filter and see what kind of results you get. If you don't, you just cancel the operation, go back, adjust your photo again. Usually just if it's a very flat photo, I'll take a color photo and just grayscale it,
Right.
apply one of the filters or the others, and then you have your sliders for light, dark, detail, no detail, that kind of thing. And it will basically draw lines around wherever it finds an edge. And one of them applies it to the inside of the edges, and one of them applies it to the outside of the edges. So in the case of this particular piece,
Mhm.
and I wish I had a mask to show you, one of the filters, I can't remember which one does one and which one does the other, but the metallic part is trapped inside the varnish.
Okay.
And so one of the filters was used for creating the varnish, and the other filter was used for creating the metallic effect.
Wait, so you capped it? You put foil down first, you put varnish on top, or around?
Around, they don't touch.
Okay.
They nest right up against each other. These little metal chains fit inside the varnish. The varnish does not lay on top of the chains. So
And is that a reason? Because a lot of people like to play with that clear varnish. So obviously today's theme is designing with clear.
Oh, I didn't know we had a theme. Good
Oh,
thing
we
you
have a
pointed
theme.
me out.
Surprise, everybody! Today's this month's theme actually for everything that we've been doing really is around clear. A lot of people like to use clear to go on top of foil or sometimes on top of clear again. And I don't know if you've ever really experimented with that kind of stuff, or Sabine, if you've seen that stuff before. But Matt, one of the questions I have for you is, can you talk to us about kind of like two-pass clear and what some of those applications are? I'm not necessarily clear on clear, maybe clear on foil or so forth.
Okay, so let's see if this will allow me to. It says I am screen sharing, correct?
Yes.
So I actually put together a presentation, lo and behold, believe it or
Oh,
not.
nice.
So,
Nice,
so,
buddy.
so here we are, and I'm just going to step through this real quick because it shows some examples and samples of what you might be talking about.
Sure.
And the first thing that I wanted to talk about was basically the seamless patterns, putting patterns on top of things. And I want to see a revival, a renaissance of using these seamless patterns or just patterns in general, or speckling or diagonal lines or whatever placed on top of specific items. And they can be foil or they can just be the printed substrate. So what that does is adds that extra tactile element to what you're doing, and it's real easy. As you know, every Konica Minolta MGI machine in particular is sold with a book of swatches of seamless patterns that you can go into the editor on board the machine and apply these patterns to either the overlay the foil or to just use a pattern varnish on top of text or other elements within the layout.
Oh, so, and then do we have a comment from Sean Roberts saying varnish on frosted lamb is another amazing effect as it turns the frost clear again.
Yes.
Touch. Have you done that before?
Yes, I actually was looking at an example of that earlier today. Okay. And if I could remember where I put it.
Don't worry about it. Just maybe you want to talk about it and if you want to show us.
Okay, yeah, it's really weird because you can lay down a matte or soft touch lamb on top of a very shiny surface. I did it with a mirror board that was a shiny silver holographic stuff, and then put down a matte finish on top of that to tone it down, and then put varnish in heavy varnish in certain spots, and it brought that clear back out again as if that matte finish coating wasn't there at all.
Yeah, really.
So it actually looks like that finish was cut out, or that the matte finish was selectively put on there.
So was it a finish or a lamp?
It was in this particular case, it was a finish. It was another color passed on the iridescence. So it was toner. So I took the foil board, the laminated foil board, ran it through digital printer, put a layer of color, either red or blue. You can pick whatever color you want, just choose a color. It lays it down really solid, really clean, and then it brings down that shine dramatically. And then you can selectively put varnish where you want that ultra shine to come back through again. So thank you, Sean, for bringing that up. It's really an interesting technique. But I've used that several times in the past, and it's just outstanding because it looks like you went to a lot of extra work to make that happen when it's really a very simple process.
Awesome.
So I just wanted to create a revival with the seamless patterns because we get a lot of that here. It's the simplest and easiest way to take a package, just put some varnish on it, and then they're like, oh my God, wow, this completely changes this box. I also work with repeating patterns, even in that editor on board, the KM MGI. Here we have a 3DL, some places have an EVO, some places have a 3DS, or a Curio Shine 3200, and anything in that line that has that onboard editor, you can go in and select, say, their logo and make it a pattern, and then put that repeating pattern in the background or around the other elements on the page on the fly, and then push print and get a sample. And if the customer's like, oh, it's a little too tight, I want it to loosen up a little bit. Well, you go back and change your XY coordinates for repeating. It changes the spacing between those logos that you just placed on that page as if it were like a wallpaper. And then you push print and out comes another sheet, and they're like, yeah, that's the one.
That's directly on the MGI, sorry.
Yeah, I think any other vendor, you would have to do all of that off board, either in Illustrator or Photoshop, which I do as well. You have more flexibility with that, but what you can do on board these machines is really quite amazing. And it kind of has a unique patterning effect that's optimized for what you would expect for that type of a setup. It doesn't just it does everything more in a diagonal pattern, and you can also rotate things as well. You have a lot of ability to do whatever you want to do there. And sometimes I'm thinking, well, that's actually going to be harder to do in Illustrator, so I'm just going to do it on board the MGI and get it over with. So you have options. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And the other thing that I like to talk about as far as just adding varnish to a page and adding quick value to it is to outline objects. Draw a line around the edge of your object, draw a line around the edge of your text. If it's, in this case, white text on a black background, excuse me, I'm going to just draw an outline around that text, put a stroke around it, and then fill that with varnish, and then you've got that pop right there without putting varnish on the white. And the other thing that we talked about were these mapped overlays, and that's a really cool thing to do. I think what I can do is share my screen, and I'm going to open, you're seeing this, right?
Right.
I'm going to open this file here. This is the actual one from this brochure.
Yeah.
This is the one that I worked on, and it was, I did it more like I described earlier in a more complex way, but I just basically went to, of course, I captured the photo off of the sheet, made it a TIFF, opened it in Photoshop. So it's just grayscale. I didn't adjust these levels at all. It's just straight how it happened.
Yep.
I'm going to go to my filter gallery, and it's going to default to the last one that you used. I'll hit Control-0 to get it all back up where it needs to be as 100% showing. This is the photocopy filter, and then you have detail and darkness settings here. So you can change those settings if you want a little less of it, if you want a little bit more of it, if you want a lot of detail, if you don't want so much detail. So you have these sliders to adjust this, but this appears to be putting it on the inside of the lines. Now the stamp is it's just different. It just puts it in different places. And then of course you have smoothness and light and dark balance as well here. And it depends on the photo where these settings should be. Like I don't want these windows to fill in like they were just a moment ago, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
back
just
to
adjust.
Yeah,
Yes.
back to the designer's question. If this is old school, as she pointed out, how would she have done this?
Well, the only other way to do it new school would be using AI. And
right, that's what I was thinking. I mean, we're not that far behind the curve, so it would be
right.
AI. Okay.
And you might be able to prompt that in Firefly. I actually haven't tried it because this works so well for me. It's like I know this works. So, and you're not left to the whim of, oh, is it going to do the file right this time, or am I going to have to reprompt and reprompt and reprompt and reprompt and reprompt, or close it out and start over with a new prompt?
And this was like what, with all this thing, maybe half a minute.
Yeah,
so
most of that was just showing.
AI would have taken you half an hour.
Yeah. So basically what you're seeing here, wherever the black is where the varnish goes.
Right.
And so you create a varnish mask, apply the proper spot color, multiply it on top of the photo, make sure it lines up nice and clean, and write your PDF, and off to the machine it goes, and you're done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally like one button. You push one button and, you choose your filter, maybe decide between these two if you want that kind of density, because you notice one makes the foreground a little darker and one makes the foreground a little bit lighter. So I liked what it was doing in the middle of the building with this filter, but I liked what it was doing on the street with this filter. So that's where I created the masking and used the top third and the bottom third for the final photo and the middle third for that final mask that I was generating. So that's it. That's it. And I have to cancel this before I have to move your window, if it will let me move it. I actually can't get to it, so I'm going to have to crash it. So let me just do that.
Wow.
I use multiple screens, and sometimes the controls fall off the bottom of the screen, and then I can't get to them. So I need to find you guys. Where did you go? There we go. Mapped overlays. That was it in a nutshell.
Very cool.
Yeah, that was it in a nutshell. So moving on, I guess.
Can I quickly ask you, how do you determine the difference between seamless and repeat patterns?
Okay, so seamless, you can actually make your own seamless patterns in Illustrator. In fact, there was a really nice tutorial released today on LinkedIn that illustrated that, and I was just blown away. That was the new school technique for how they would generate a repeating pattern. So what people are doing is they're going into Illustrator and creating the patterns like you see on the screen here, and then they sell them. You could go buy them and just basically use them. And there's a bazillion of them. Usually the ones that you're looking for is a square, a real clean square. It may not be completely seamless if it's more of a rectangle, but you can build your file that way if you generate it from scratch. There's a whole bunch of different ones. You could go to any image bureau. The one that you're looking at here is from Dreams Time. I just typed in, you see at the top there, seamless patterns black. And then this is what I got out of it, just a bunch of different patterns. So the ones that are resident in the machines when you get them are not the only ones that you can use.
Right, you create your own, yeah.
You can create your own, or you can go buy them. And usually for me, I just go buy them. So if you want to create one, let's say I bought this from Dreams Time and I opened it in Photoshop, then I'm going to draw a marquee around it, go to edit, define pattern, as shown here, and then it's going to add that to my pattern swatches here.
But this ultimately is a repeat pattern, even though it's
Yeah.
I was asking what for you is the differentiation between seamless and repeat, because
well, to me,
ultimately all patterns are repeats of something.
Right. Yeah, in the basic, but seamless means that it's whatever is contained in that square, what's on the right side lines up exactly with what's on the left side, and what's on the bottom lines up exactly with what's on the top. And that way you can scale it and shrink it down and expand it up to any scale that you want it to be, and put it on anything that you could put on that wall over there. Or you could put it on a tiny little cube on a business card and
But ultimately it's a repeat pattern. It's just that it's seamless.
Yeah, yeah. I would say not all repeat patterns are seamless because it's how the edges meet up.
Okay.
And if you take an image of one and mirror it, the edges are gonna line up and continue forever to infinity, until you exhaust your ability to be able to continue doing that.
Okay.
All right, so you can overlay foil with varnish. We talked about putting patterns on top of foil. You could do it just on the substrate or put it on top of foil as well. And I've done a lot of that where you just put a texture. It could be a speckle like a spray to bring it down to more of a matte or less shiny finish, or it can pattern like what you see in the background here is a seamless repeating pattern. We always like to put patterns in neutral space rather than on the subject itself, or you can add strokes to edges of anything and draw more attention to that area. So here's some ideas here of the use of neutral space, putting patterns in the neutral space. The one on the right was actually a downloaded image that showed that kind of a mesh net thing. And then I cut it away to show the meter, and then I put varnish on the meter's readouts to help. It just kind of added a little bit something, as well as a pinstripe of varnish around all the edges of the meter. It's a little hard to see, but it just seems to add a little bit of something. The one on the left, of course, there's just varnish over the Toyota logo, and then on the outer area. And things like that totally transform the piece. I highly recommend that for anything. If someone just comes to you and says, add a little varnish to this and make it look cool, that's the first thing that I would attempt to do, is just fill that negative space with anything, just as long as it
It looks more
flows.
valuable right off the top.
Yeah.
As you said, you don't have to do much.
Well, I wish I
So
had a
to speak.
before and after of that particular piece but if you can imagine it without the varnish on there,
It's
it's
nothing.
really
So, yeah.
really dull, really
Yeah.
dull. And here it is, more of that image map thing. This is one of the first ones I ever did. This is going like way back, so the photo's not that good. But this is the use of one of those filters that I just showed you, as well as a pattern in the neutral space around the fish that looks like it implies motion. It makes you feel like the fish is fluttering through the water, even though it's not a wave, but it has that fluttering, flowing feel to it. And it makes the fish feel like it's not solitary. It makes it feel like it's in something, like in water or in an element of some kind. And that's what I really liked about this piece. What you're viewing right now is extremely small. That's a very small print. That fish itself was probably 3/4 of an inch wide.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had to really blow that up in order to get that to show here. These are some, I wish Ryan was on the call, from Harrison Bruno. These are some samples that he did on the ZRX with the pre-coater. So I see this granular texture on the left and more subtle ones on the right that are over-coated that bring down the shine of the varnish. So I've done that effect as well, where you run it back through a press of some kind and put an aqueous coat on top of it, like a soft touch aqueous or a matte finish aqueous, and it completely changes the piece. It brings down the shine. It's still shiny, but it's more of a silky, satiny kind of look. And I absolutely.
Question, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
And this has been one on my mind for a while. I understand that you guys like shiny foil, but there's so many other different foils available. So
Yes.
why not use a matte foil to begin with?
You know, the thing that I'm always up against, especially with the CSRs and sales reps here at Elite Print Finishing, we just call it EPF for short, is that they just are stuck in the groove of like, hey, let's put some gold foil on it. So I come in and they write up the job orders, correct? And I'm looking at it and it just says gold foil. Well, I'm always coming back to them. I'm like, what kind? And they're like, well, just gold. No, what kind of gold foil?
There's 50 different golds, people.
Yeah, just gold foil. I'm like, well, there's gold, there's warm gold, there's colder golds, there's a rose gold, there's matte gold, there's shiny gold, and there's holographic gold. So
gold
just
and silver, that's about the sum of it.
Yeah, so the assumption is if it just says gold, then it's shiny gold. But I keep trying to break that mold. It's like, well, you could use something else and it would look even better.
Well, I think Matt is.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sabine.
No, and you wouldn't have to tone it down afterwards. If
Correct.
you would start with the right foil anyway, you wouldn't have
So one thing that I usually kick back to them as an option, if the job doesn't need to be done this minute and we have a couple days to work on it, I will kick it back and say, well, see this type in shiny gold, it's really hard to read against this background. It's reflecting too much light. It makes your brain work too hard for someone like me who is photophobic. And my coworker I'm training, Matthew, he's also photophobic. If I open the blinds in that room, he's like, we're going to melt.
I'm sorry, these are called vampires, Matt?
No, okay, then I'm a vampire. But no, it's because you don't have enough pigment in the retina of your eye. And so everything that's bright, particularly highly reflective things like the piercing reflection off of the chrome of a car is painful. It is excruciating and blinding. So we're both always wearing glasses and sunglasses. So I almost need to wear sunglasses to look at shiny foil, particularly with the lighting that's back there, which is like a proper viewing station for.
So these were done. Sorry if I interrupt you. These were done, but otherwise I forget my question. So these were done on Harrison Bruno, right? The ZRX.
Yes. So they have the pre-coater on that machine, which enhances the ability for this varnish to lay down in exactly the way they want it to.
How did the right-hand side then, how was the right-hand side created? Was it a
Well,
silver to begin with and then, so I'm
no,
sorry.
it was a printed sheet. They laid down the shiny varnish, and then they overprinted it with an I believe it was an aqueous coating. It was a matte aqueous coating. The texture that you see is based on the rollers that they used in the coater that gives it the texture. And I think just no, not to any. The left side looks like gloss. The right side was a textured or pebble type roller. It's like it lays down a textured finish
So this,
of
he has
aqueous.
samples of this, because then I'm gonna nudge him.
You could ask him for them.
And then,
Absolutely.
then he's gonna kill me? I'm sorry.
No,
I'm teasing.
no, not at all. I mean, he'd be happy to send them to you. Yeah,
This
definitely.
is, I can tell you right now, this is a designer's dream. If this is digital, this is a
Yes,
designer's dream.
it's a marriage between digital and analog. So the pre-coding is analog. So there you can use the pre-coder as the paper. You could use any paper you want, pre-code it, and send it into these machines to varnish and foil. And that way you don't have to use a coated paper. You can just use uncoated offset or anything that you want. You can also lay down a UV coating if you want. I think aqueous is more versatile because you can put more texture on it, but you can also put down a UV coating for durability. And you can do that before and after you lay down the varnish.
So because this looks like a true emboss. I
It
mean, I know
looks
it's
like
not,
it, but it's not. But it's the texture.
But that's
It's
what I'm saying.
it's the actual surface of the roller is
right.
tooled to look like that. And what
Cool.
you're seeing is the swirls and the hexagons and all that. That was the varnish that was laid down on the blue printed sheet.
I've got to hang out more with you and Ryan, it seems. You're sharing all the secrets here.
Ryan got to do all this pioneering design work because this was new technology, and it still is. And so he has the ability to just play and play and play. And these are just some of the samples that he came up with as what was possibility. And the one on the right, he came up with later. He's just like, what if we coated it after we varnished it? What would we get? And I remember when Kevin and I were going through the musings of that. And it's like, well, I did it. That was one of the highest viewed, how do you put it, highest viewed LinkedIn posts that I ever had.
Okay, this was, so I can look at it. It's under your. There's so many fabulous posters. Then I might have missed this one, but you posted this one.
If you go into my profile on LinkedIn and go to featured, you have to scroll down and go to featured. You'll see this shark logo. It was a school I guess it was a college mascot.
Yeah.
And it's gold foil with an matte aqueous overprint. It's a flood coat. I should specify it's a flood coat. It's not a spot coat. It's a flood coat on the entire sheet because they liked the gold foil. They didn't like the shine. They wanted a matte finish. The matte finish for foils that were available at the time were just like pigment type. They didn't really have that metallic effect to it. Now Kerr's has kind of perfected that. They're really good with them. I would highly recommend their metallic matte gold foil. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. But then we overprinted it. We sent it back to a press to go through with a flood coat on aqueous, and what we got was astounding. The look and feel was just such luxury. It was very high-end looking. And so I encouraged Ryan to do this, and this is what he came up with. He just did it very well. It's beautiful. And you imagine that on like a different color base or on top of something else, where the pattern of the varnish is following what's printed on the page. It would take on a whole new look. But yeah, I mean, I highly recommend having this done if you have the ability to overcoat varnish with another texture or a matte finish or something of that effect, because like you said, this is a designer's dream. When I talk to like wedding invitation designers and other high-end event designers, this is the look they're going for.
Yeah.
this one on the right. They want it to be
Packaging.
elegant.
I can see that on packaging as well in so many things.
Absolutely. Elegant,
this is
elevated,
elegant.
and understated. It's just
These
kind
are
of
my
that.
3 favorite words, Matt.
Yeah, it's like a tone on tone. So I was going to open the floor for participant questions, but oh heck, I think we've been doing that for a while.
Sorry, just always jump in. Kevin, you had a question earlier and I cut you off. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I forgot where we were back then.
Yeah.
See, but that's, if I don't ask right now, then I forget as
So,
well. I'm like,
given that, now I remember something else I was going to say earlier. So when I was mentioning that, the first foil of choice here for gold is shiny gold. And I always give that pushback. I'm like, well, this is really hard to read with the shiny parts. The text is too small. That's when I got into the whole ocular issue of hyperphotosensitivity, photophobia, whatever. And I always go back, I'm like, see if they would consider we print a sample on the matte finish gold. I think they'll like it better. And sometimes we win, sometimes we don't, because their brand requirements are very specific. So, for example, the presidential Hershey's Kisses box, every president,
right.
They do the presidential Hershey Kisses thing. And so now we're doing it for 47. And it's like this shiny gold foil, and it's really small and it's really fine. And in the seal, it says E pluribus unum, but it's really hard to see with all the shine that's going on. I'm like, see if they'll change it up. See if they'll go with a matte finish gold foil. And because it's going to upscale this just a little bit more. But there again, Sabine, it's down to, perception. And what you consider to be as luxury. Some don't consider a matte finish foil to be luxury when compared to gold, shiny gold. It's all down to perception. And I can't argue with their decision. What they decide is what they decide.
You can, and this is the beauty about the digital aspect of things, that you can basically show them, say, let me run one, here it is.
Yeah.
And then they can see, because just telling them, they will not understand the difference.
Yeah, well, some of it will carry in an email. So I sat down with the CSR. I said, let's craft an email to them and try and get them to understand what's going on here. So we didn't use terms like shiny or matte or shiny or that type of thing. We use terms like harsh or over reflective or difficult to see,
right,
versus softer. And easier to read.
Interesting.
Or easier on the eye, because those are tied with emotions, and that's what got them to say yes to a sample.
Right.
Cool. Well done.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, I think we are coming up on the 45-minute mark. First off, I want to great conversation, Matt. Thank you very much. Sabine, is my internet still cutting out on you guys?
No, you're fine.
Okay. I did want to also just give a very special welcome to some of our friends that are dialing in from Asia. So Mike Ibrahim, I believe, is in Singapore. So thank you very much for joining us, Mike.
Hello.
And
he says hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, Mike. And also wanted to thank Krista for joining us as well. So if anybody has any questions or anything for Matt, now's the time to do it. And while we're waiting for those questions to come in, I just wanted to thank our sponsors for the Digital Embellishment Designer Meetup. I wanted to thank MGI Digital Technology for their sponsorship. I wanted to thank Sabine and Paper Specs, all the wonderful things that Sabine does for the industry. We're big fans, and if you don't follow her on LinkedIn, I really highly recommend that you do. And I also wanted to thank the Digital Embellishment Alliance with Jeff Peterson. All that is coming together. We're all going to be meeting, I think, at a big show in June in Chicago. So I think the 4 people on the camera here. Are you going, Sabine, to that show or no?
I'm sorry. I'm one of the opening acts. You did not know this?
I did. That's why I wanted to plug. So Sabine, we're really looking forward to seeing you in person there as the opening.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. It is. So if you guys are in the United States and you're thinking about, what show should I go to, that really highlights what Digital Embellishments is all about. I can't recommend the Amplify print conference and show enough. So that being said, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Sabine, for your sponsorship and your support. Matt, always a pleasure to learn from you. I know that I have always learned a lot. We'll be making this video available on our website, on our YouTube, and we'll be posting it to LinkedIn very quickly. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming. It's always a big pleasure, and we'll see you next month. Matt, what's the theme for next month?
Yeah, tell me what theme it is so I can prepare.
Oh, you caught me off
Variable
guard here.
data.
Variable data, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so it's
We're still
variable
doing
data.
that?
It's variable data embellishments, not variable.
I'm already nervous about it too, because
Good.
I try to convince people that it's not such a complex beast as it always is, but it is.
Right.
All right, and remember to send me samples, Matt,
Of what?
of cool stuff that you are now, the whole mat on top. You didn't tell me about this, so I had to show up here today to find out.
So yeah, we probably have to have a discussion about that.
I just want to say, let's talk off the camera.
Well, and Matt, you're going to be helping redesign all of our collateral here shortly, so that's going to be a little project that hopefully we can learn all the stuff that we've been learning in these sessions and maybe apply these cool effects to some of this collateral that we're building out.
Yeah, I want a renaissance of where we all started with this.
Love it.
I think it would really help a lot of people out to return to basics.
Awesome. Very cool. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.